I want to tell you about a 47-second voice memo that changed everything. She sent it to me by accident. And for 5 weeks, I said absolutely nothing. Her name was Priya. We'd been best friends since the 7th grade. The kind of friendship that survives college, cross-country moves, career changes, bad relationships, and worse haircuts. She was the maid of honor at my wedding. I was in the delivery room when her first son was born. We talked on the phone 3 times a week minimum. My husband's name was Marcus. They had known each other for 6 years, from the moment I introduced them at my birthday dinner in the back corner booth of a restaurant I no longer go to. I had never once suspected anything. Not a single moment of doubt. Not a misread glance or a strange silence or an unexplained absence. Either I was spectacularly naive or they were spectacularly careful. Probably both. It was a Wednesday evening in November. I was sitting on the couch with my phone, half watching something on television, when a voice memo notification came through from Priya. That wasn't unusual. We sent each other voice memos all the time. Faster than typing, more personal than a text. It was just how we communicated. I pressed play, not realizing my entire life was about to change in the next 47 seconds. For the first 4 seconds, it was just background noise. The sound of a car, wind, a door closing. Then her voice. Normal. Familiar. The same voice I'd known since I was 12 years old. And then she said his name. Marcus, I just needed to hear your voice. I know we said we'd be careful, but I keep thinking about the lake house and I can't stop. You told her it was a work trip, and I keep thinking, what if she asks someone? What if she finds out on her own before you tell her? I love you. I know that's complicated and I know what it means, but I do. Just tell her. Please. You keep saying soon and I need it to actually be soon. I can't keep doing dinners with her and pretending. I can't keep looking at her and pretending. That was it. 47 seconds. Background noise. Then that. Then silence. I sat completely still. The lake house. 3 weeks earlier, Marcus had told me he was going on a fishing trip with 2 guys from work. He'd shown me a photo of the cabin on his phone. Laughed about how rustic it was, how bad the cell signal would be. He'd been gone for 4 days. He'd come home with a sunburn on his forearms and a bottle of local hot sauce he said he'd picked up at a roadside store. I pressed play again. And then something strange happened. My first emotion wasn't rage. It wasn't even hurt. It was confusion. A deep, disorienting confusion, like someone had rearranged all the furniture in a room I'd lived in for 15 years and left me standing in the dark. I kept thinking, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't fit. These are 2 people I love. These are 2 people who love me. Then the confusion broke open, and what came through underneath it was grief. Not anger, grief. The kind that sits in your chest like a stone. I thought about her standing next to me at my wedding, holding my bouquet, crying when Marcus and I exchanged vows. I thought about whether those tears were real or whether even then, even at the very beginning, something had already been there that I couldn't see. I sat on that couch for 2 hours. I didn't move. I just let it move through me. The memories reshuffling themselves. Every dinner and phone call and vacation suddenly reframed, filtered through what I now knew. 6 years of a marriage and a friendship, both hollowed out in ways I hadn't been able to see. At some point, I started crying. Not loudly, just quietly, steadily, the way you cry when something is simply and permanently gone. And then, somewhere around the 2nd hour, something shifted. I wiped my face. I sat up straight, and I thought very clearly, I am not going to let them write the ending of this story. I forwarded the voice memo to my own email, downloaded it, saved it in 3 places. Then I sat very still and I waited. Marcus came home at his usual time, 6:45 p.m. I heard his key in the lock, heard him drop his bag by the door the way he always did. He came into the living room, and I was sitting exactly where I'd been for the past 2 hours, the television still on, my phone face down in my lap. He looked at me, and I saw it immediately. A flicker, just for a second, behind his eyes, a tightening around his mouth. He'd heard from Priya. Of course he had. She would have called him in a panic the moment she realized what she'd done. He knew. He was standing in the doorway of our living room, knowing that I might know everything, trying to read my face for evidence. I gave him nothing. I smiled. I asked him how his day was. I got up and went to the kitchen and started making dinner like it was any other Wednesday evening in our life together. He sat down at the dinner table that night and told me about his day. A meeting that ran long, traffic on the highway. He even complained about a coworker, some minor frustration. And I nodded and said, "That's so annoying," and refilled his glass of water. And the whole time I was thinking, I have your voice memo saved in 3 places. I have already spoken to no one yet, but I will. And you have absolutely no idea. He thought he was safe. He was not safe. The next 2 weeks were the hardest of my life. Not because of the logistics. I had a plan and I was executing it. But because every single day I had to perform a version of myself that no longer existed. I had to answer Priya's texts with the same warmth I always had. I had to sit across the dinner table from Marcus and ask him about his day. I had to watch them both look me in the eyes, knowing what they knew, and knowing that they thought I didn't know it too. There were nights I lay awake replaying the voice memo in my head. Her voice. The way she said, "I love you," so easily, so openly, to my husband, like she'd said it 100 times before. And maybe she had. There were moments I almost broke. One Saturday, Marcus made me coffee the way he always did. 2 sugars, a splash of oat milk, and handed it to me with a smile. And I had to go to the bathroom and sit on the floor for 10 minutes because the ordinary kindness of it was somehow the most devastating thing of all. This man who knew. This man who had been lying to my face for years and still made my coffee the way I liked it and smiled at me like everything was fine. But I held on, because I knew that if I confronted them before I was ready, I would be the one who looked unstable. I needed to be unassailable. I needed the truth to be so documented, so organized, so impossible to dispute that there would be nothing left to say. I spent those 2 weeks doing 3 things. First, I spoke to a divorce attorney. Quietly, privately, on a Tuesday afternoon while Marcus thought I was at a yoga class. I understood my rights, my options, and what documentation would be most useful going forward. Second, I went through 6 years of joint finances. What I found made my stomach turn. Charges at hotels in cities Marcus had said he visited alone for work. A recurring payment to a restaurant in our own city. Always on Tuesday nights, always for 2. On evenings, he'd told me he was working late. The lake house rental. Weekend cash withdrawals with no explanation. Hundreds of small lies buried in 6 years of bank statements, adding up to something I could now see clearly and completely. Third, I said nothing. I performed our marriage with the same dedication they had performed their secret. I smiled. I made plans. I asked Priya about her kids. I watched them both continue to believe they had gotten away with it. The relief in Marcus's eyes during those 2 weeks was almost darkly funny. He'd spent the first few days watching me carefully, searching for cracks, for signs that I knew. When none came, he relaxed. He actually relaxed. He started being more affectionate than usual, I think out of guilt, which only made me more certain of what I was doing. On a Saturday morning, 5 weeks after that voice memo arrived, I sat Marcus down at the kitchen table. I had a folder in front of me. Inside it, the printed transcript of the voice memo with the timestamp. 11 months of bank statements with every relevant charge highlighted in yellow. The lake house rental receipt. And 3 screenshots of text messages I'd found during those 2 weeks that removed any remaining ambiguity about how long this had been going on. I placed the folder on the table between us and folded my hands on top of it. I said, "I got Priya's voice memo. I've known for 5 weeks. I spent that time making sure I had everything I needed. This is what I want, and this is what will happen if you make this difficult." He stared at the folder. He stared at me. He opened his mouth and closed it again. And I watched 5 weeks of carefully maintained relief drain out of his face all at once. He signed everything within the month. The settlement reflected the full picture, not just our shared assets, but the money that had quietly disappeared from our joint accounts over 6 years. My attorney was excellent. I thought about calling Priya. I thought about everything I could say, all the questions I had, all the things I deserved to know. And then I decided she didn't deserve that much of me. I sent her one text message instead, the same afternoon Marcus signed the papers. It said, "I got your voice memo. I've known since November. I hope it was worth it." And I didn't need anything from her. The friendship was already gone. I just hadn't known it yet. The voice memo didn't end the friendship. It showed me it had been over for a long time. I won't tell you the healing was easy or fast. There are still mornings I wake up and feel the shape of what was taken from me. Not just a marriage, not just a friendship, but a version of my life I believed in completely. Grief doesn't follow a schedule. It doesn't care that you won. It shows up anyway, in quiet moments, uninvited. But I also have a clarity now that I didn't have before, about who I let close, about the difference between people who love you and people who love what you give them, about the importance of trusting the evidence over the performance. I keep backups of everything. Some lessons you only have to learn once. If this story found you at the right moment, subscribe. A new story drops every week. Some people burn bridges. Some people just let the truth do it for them. I'm served cold. They were careful for years. It took 47 seconds to undo all of it.